In this video, we are talking about 5 running backs that I cannot stop drafting in fantasy football this season. A couple of these backs are some late round gems, starting with Bayonett, who's an absolute menace his final year at Virginia Tech. He had over 1,000 rushing yards, 17 total touchdowns, and he did all of that on only 183 attempts, which is absolutely wild. Some people could argue that he was underutilized. 6.3 yards per carry, 8th in elusive rating, 10th in yards after contact per attempt and breakaway percentage. He is the real deal, and he offers blazing 4.3 40 speed, which was the best in the running back class, and doesn't sacrifice much size in terms of weight, 209 pounds. We like to see that. So he's elusive, fast. He's a shifty running back that's a strong runner up the middle. If you take a look at this chart, he matches or gets close to Ashton Jeanty in some of these categories here, which is pretty impressive for a 4th rounder who we know was handpicked by now head coach Liam Cohen. Yes, he's the RB3 on the depth chart. We know they have Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, but I don't think it's going to last very long. Sorry, all you Etienne truthers out there, but I truly do think that it's pretty close to over. My guess is that Etienne doesn't see a lot of the field this year or potentially gets traded at some point. We know Tank Bigsby, he's a nice player, but he's pretty one-dimensional. He's a 0 in the passing game. And this feels very similar to Tampa Bay's backfield last year with Rachaad White, Bucky Irving, Sean Tucker was in the mix. We know Irving ended up being the guy in the backfield. He won the job. And I think so will Tootin. It's also ironic because Cohen was the offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay last season and was a big part of what Bucky did in year 1. Don't be shocked if Tootin is this year's Bucky Irving. I know we're all looking for the next Bucky Irving, and rightfully so. Tootin just might be the guy, and he's buried in drafts right now. You can get him in round 14. I think he has incredible upside, especially if he hits with very little risk for his price. We know in fantasy, especially at the running back position, you want to be targeting these ambiguous backfields. Jacksonville is one of them. We really don't know how it's going to shake out. So take a chance on Tootin in round 14, and he could be an absolute league winner for you. Moving on to Isaiah Pacheco. Recency bias is telling us that Pacheco just isn't a good player anymore, and that's just simply not true. He broke his leg in week 2 last year. Give this man some grace. Like, he rushed back way too quick in 9 weeks and obviously was not the same guy. He didn't have that juice. He didn't have that explosiveness. But do we blame him? Like, most players who break their leg are usually out for the year. So I'm not too worried about when he came back what he looked like. He wasn't healthy. End of discussion. But we know what Pacheco does look like when he is healthy. 2023, he had over 1,100 total yards, 44 receptions, 9 touchdowns. He was at RB14 in fantasy points per game. Those are all really strong numbers, and he can definitely get back to those stats. I think he's going to even have a better year than 23. And last year, before getting injured, he was off to an extremely hot start. Week 1, 15.8 fantasy points. Week 2, 16 fantasy points. 80% snap share before getting injured. It's clear Kansas City wants to make Pacheco the bell cow on this offense, and their actions are proving that. The only other backs on the roster, Kareem Hunt, who's completely washed. If you watched any Chiefs games last year, it's clear he doesn't have it anymore. They brought in Elijah Mitchell, who is hurt every other game. Not really worried about him. And then they have a 7th round pick in Brashard Smith, who probably won't do much either. Head coach Andy Reid is impressed with what he's seeing from his running back. Quote, he looks tremendous right now, put on a couple pounds of good weight and is leaned up. We know Pacheco is a versatile back, and I think a top 5 finish is well within his range of outcomes this year. That's what we all thought was going to happen last year, and then he got hurt. So why are we also out on him this season? I don't think we should be. He still is a very talented back on a potent Kansas City offense with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback that you can get in round 6 right now on Sleeper. I think he's an absolute steal, and I'm predicting a huge year for Isaiah. I think he goes over 1,000 rushing yards for the first time in his career, and double-digit touchdowns seems like a pretty easy bet as well. On to the next guy, Omarion Hampton. I am so excited about Hampton this year, and obviously the Chargers were as well, as they went after him, spent a 1st-round pick to get him, selected to a team that we know wants to pound the rock desperately, and I think Hampton is the perfect fit for what they're looking to do. and his numbers back it up. He was a monster at North Carolina, back-to-back seasons with 1,500 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns, and 220 plus receiving yards. He's a big guy at 6 feet tall, 220 pounds. He's like a sledgehammer out there. He's impossible to bring down. He was in the 97th percentile in yards after contact per attempt. He's what you want. He's an all-purpose workhorse skill set type of back, and they used him that way at North Carolina over the last 2 seasons. He averaged 24 touches, 150 yards, and 1.32 touchdowns per game. And now he gets to run behind what looks to be a top 5 offensive line that features Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt. We know they just brought in Mekhi Becton, who came over from Philadelphia. The only one little problem that's standing in Hampton's way is good old Najee Harris, who's just a guy at this point. He's coming off a solid year in Pittsburgh, but he doesn't do anything extremely well, and he doesn't do anything that bad, which keeps him on the field, which is annoying. But you could argue that he signed a backup level deal, 1 year, $5 million. It would not shock me at all if Hampton is the RB1 sooner rather than later. But either way you look at it, we know offensive coordinator Greg Roman wants to run the football. So I think there's going to be plenty to go around for both backs if Najee is still in the mix, which he's likely going to be. But in Roman's 11 years as offensive coordinator, he's never finished lower than 11th in rushing attempts. This is a guy you can get in round 4 of fantasy drafts who has an absolutely crazy ceiling if everything breaks right. And if it doesn't, if Najee is still in the mix, I think he can very well be a strong RB2 for your fantasy team. And if Najee were to get hurt, he is a top 10 back potentially. On to the next guy, DeAndre Swift, who I know a lot of people don't like, and rightfully so. He never feels like he can get over the hump, but it's not as bad as you think. I mean, he was the RB21 in fantasy points per game last year, which is pretty impressive considering how horrible Chicago was on offense, from the play caller to the quarterback to the offensive line. It was an absolute disaster. And now you bring in this entirely new coaching staff. Ben Johnson comes over from Detroit. We know he's an offensive wizard. He's very creative. He knows how to put his guys in the best spots. They revamped that horrible offensive line. They brought in 3 new starters to add to bolster that unit. They have more weapons on offense, spent a first-round pick on tight end Loveland. They drafted wide receiver Burden. The opposing defenses are going to have to respect the pass, right? This is going to be a much better offense this year. I think Swift is going to have a lot more lanes to run through, a lot less attention on him, which he's going to benefit from. We also know he can be a factor in the passing game as well, which we love for PPR. He's had 39 plus receptions and 40 plus targets in each of his 5 NFL seasons. So they get it to him through the air. He was used that way when Ben Johnson was the offensive coordinator for the Lions, and he doesn't have much competition for touches. They didn't really add anything to this backfield. Roshan Johnson, who proved to us last year that he's nothing special at all. I think this offense is going to be impressive. I think they're going to be efficient. I think they're going to be in scoring position in the red zone often, which Swift should be able to capitalize on. He reminds me of a guy like Kyron Williams or Joe Mixon, 2 guys that are not efficient at all, but they thrive on volume and touchdowns. And that's absolutely something that Swift can do. And I think he's going to do that this year. I mean, you can get him in round 7. Round 7, that could not be more of a steal because of the situation that he's walking into. It's not like Swift is this horrible back. He still has talent. He still has upside. He's just been in really bad situations for the most part outside of Philadelphia, where he wasn't really the guy there in terms of on offense. They didn't really use him like I think they're going to here. So I'm expecting Swift to maybe have his best year of his career, and he's an absolute bargain in the 7th round. On to our last guy, Chase Brown is just not getting enough love after what he did last year. Everyone's like, oh, but this, but that. Cut out all the noise. Don't make it more difficult than it needs to be. From weeks 9 to 17 last year, once he finally took over in that full-time role, Zach Moss was injured. He averaged 23 touches, 116 total yards, and was the RB4 over that stretch. Imagine the numbers that he can put together in a full season. Like, he proved how good he could be in 8 weeks. Give him a full year. He could potentially break fantasy. Brown is a very special receiving back. You can put him close to the Christian McCaffrey tier in that department, in the receiving department. He's that good. He earned 65 targets last year, brought in 54 of them for 360 yards, 4 touchdowns. Among running backs, he ranked 2nd in receiving yards per game, 6th in target share. And what we know, what's going to continue from last year is this Bengals defense is going to be terrible yet again. And the Bengals on offense are going to need to score points to win football games. They're going to be in plenty of shootouts. The offense is going to be on the field often, which is going to result in more fantasy points. I think double-digit touchdowns is a lock for Brown. RB1 overall is well within his range of outcomes, and maybe he won't average 20 touches, 23 touches a game, right? Or maybe he will. Why would Cincinnati take him off the football field? He can do it all. He's a versatile, dynamic back. There's no reason that he shouldn't be on the football field for a majority of the snaps, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, he's not going to play that many. We don't know that. Why wouldn't he? He proved that he could last year. If he holds up and stays healthy, the Bengals need Chase Brown on the field. They don't need Zach Moss. So this is a guy that a lot of people are like, oh, but P. Ryan's not going to be out there on 3rd down. This is going to be the Chase Brown show, and he could go absolutely crazy, and people are just making excuses. Don't be one of those people. It's not like you're spending a 1st-round pick to get him. If you're spending a round 1 pick, yeah, you can justify some of those things. He's a round 3 pick. That's absolute highway robbery for a guy who proved to us that he could be the RB4 in 9 weeks. And now you can get him in round 3. That's crazy. So don't make the mistake of avoiding him for all the little this and that's. I think Chase Brown is going to go absolutely insane this year. So those are 5 running backs that I cannot stop drafting. Subscribe, like this video. There's going to be plenty more content to come this fantasy offseason. The season is almost here. I'm getting excited. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.